It is
Very
2
good.
o'clock. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Caitlin. All right. Well, let's get started. I know we've had some people here waiting for a little while. So good afternoon and welcome on behalf of Plano Public Library and Collin College. And we are here today for Exploring Careers in Construction. I think you'll find some new and interesting information as we talk with our guests today. Just so that you know, you are muted as participants. We will be using Q&A for the chat the chat function for questions and answers. So we would love to hear your questions for our panelists as we get going. We are about to get started, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen because you don't need to see this anymore. You need to see our people. So let's see. Speaker view, I guess we'll go to gallery. Okay. So we are all here today to talk about exploring careers in construction. We have with us today a variety of panelists who are working in construction and HVAC and welding. And we have people from Collin College, some of our career coaches who help individuals get training that they need to succeed in these fields. So we're going to hear from all of them today, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about what part of the construction industry they're in and how they got to that point. Let's start with Cassie, please.
And I have been attending Collin College for about a year now, and I fell into welding as my degree plan through my dad. He's a jack of all trades, if you will, and he's taught me a lot about welding, and that's how I fell in love with it.
Fabulous. All right, Amy?
Hi, my name is Amy Bell, and I am an area service manager for Train Technologies. We are one of the leading manufacturers for HVAC equipment, and we are partnered with Collin College. I have been in the industry now for about 25 years, and I kind of had a little bit of a bumpy road to get into this industry, but it's one of the passions of my life, and I really love being in this industry, and I love talking about it. So I'm sure I'll have a lot more to add to the conversation later.
Super. Thank you. AJ?
Hey, so I'm not sure what really happened on my side. It's not letting me show the video or let me start the video. So I guess it's just my voice.
There we go. I see your name, at least on the screen.
There we go.
We gotcha.
Sorry. So I just made you co-host again.
Okay, yeah, sorry, it signed me out for some reason, and then it had me redo everything. So I think, are we at intros?
Yes, we're just having you introduce yourself and say what part of the field you're in and how you got there.
All right, so I go by AJ, so I'm AJ, and my current position is I am a construction manager with Pulte Group. So I am a builder with them. And so kind of what got me into that is, I wanted to be part of the construction industry, and I did try. I was doing drawing blueprints, and so I decided I didn't want to be, sitting behind the desk all day. So I just wanted to be something more involved, and that's how I got to my current position, and I got my associates through Collin County.
Very good. Thank you. All right. I was doing ladies first, except for we're saving Kate for the end. So Dionne, you want to introduce yourself?
All right. Hello, I'm Dionne. I am a project engineer for KWA Construction. We specialize in multifamily residential. I got into the construction industry just by, general interest as a kid. I was always eyes glued to any type of construction that was going on. I didn't really follow into it or look into it going into college. I started in computer science, but then after a little too much sitting down for me, I was like, this isn't for me. and I found my way to Collin College Construction Management Program and just graduated this past May.
Fabulous. Thank you. All right, Sean, tell us about yourself.
All right. Well, first and foremost, thank you, Kristen, and City of Plano Public Library for having us. This is it's quite a treat. It's not something I get a chance to do very often, so it's certainly an honor. I appreciate it, and what students that we have here to represent. It's certainly nice to see them blossom and go out in the industry and do well. I started my career at Collin in February 2018 as a veteran resource specialist. Part of that came about from my past working with the state. I worked with the Texas Veterans Commission for about 6 years and worked as a liaison with employers helping transition veterans that were coming out of the military find career opportunities and help job develop career opportunities with those companies to try to make that transition. So that was the biggest portion that helped me kind of move over into higher education in 2018. But having that opportunity a few years later with the new technical campus coming about, I had met this young lady, Kate Smith, and she kind of enticed me to looking at the career coach opportunity. And I thought, well, I mean, I don't know about the academic side so much, but as far as being a close-knit proponent of helping people job develop into various industries, I had a lot of connections there. So that was kind of my end to come into the career coach opportunity. And so when I had a chance a year ago to get on board, interviewed, and was very fortunate to be selected to be a career coach. I coached the students on the HVAC technology and the welding technology side of the house on Trade Bar B on our beautiful campus in Allen, Texas. If you ever have a chance, any of you, come out and take a tour. We'd love to see you and see what all the toys we have and the cool setup we got. Our digs are really nice. Believe me, you'd love it. Look forward to seeing the numbers grow again. We're really growing in every department. We've almost got wait lists for people to come on in various departments to students because the word's finally getting out. So that's kind of where I'm at, Kristen. I don't want to go too far. Believe me, I can go all day talking. You have to shut me up.
That's great.
So,
that's great. Thank you. So we have Kate last specifically because she's going to also give us a little look at current trends in construction and what it looks like for Collin County. So Kate, thanks.
Thanks, Kristen.
Sure.
So as she said, my name is Kate Smith, and I'm also a workforce coach at Collin College. I work with students in our architecture and construction programs, help them connect with industry and find employment. And so today, or October, is careers in construction month. Yeah, get that out.
Right.
And we're trying to really raise awareness of the different careers in construction and all the opportunities. Across the board, the industry is really facing a worker shortage, and especially due to a couple of key factors. First of all, we all know construction is booming in North Texas. We're building houses and retail stores and industrial complexes, roads, bridges, everything, everywhere. And so all those projects need skilled workers. But a lot of our skilled workforce is getting ready to retire. The average age of a plumber in North Texas is 58. And the average electrician is in their 40s. And so we need not only to replace them, but also to increase their numbers. So the good news is there's lots of jobs out there, and they pay really well. The construction industry has some of the highest job growth and salary numbers. So I wanted to show you a little slide, just kind of showing you some of those numbers. Let me go ahead and share my screen with you. So let me see. Can you see?
Yes, we've got it.
Excellent. So you can see some of the average wages for people in the industry and the job growth. I mean, the job growth in the next 10 years is pretty astronomical. And so, just to give you some outlook there on the numbers, and these careers don't require a 4-year degree to get into them. That means you can get into the workforce faster and with a lot less debt than maybe a traditional college education. So Sean and I will talk more about the opportunities at Collin College and the programs that we offer later. But for now, let's get back to the panelists so that you guys can ask some questions of people in the industry. So let me unshare my screen and get back to our panelists. Thank you.
Absolutely. So we were going to start with the video. And so hopefully I can do this. Oh, it didn't ask me about, sorry, I have to unshare. We are going to start with a video, and excellent. I didn't do the share sound. And we will cut this off. It's a little bit long, so I'll send you the link. But here we go. It's very interesting. I'm going to start actually a little bit in.
Construction management as a whole is just managing the overall process of it, from project development, where the owner's deciding what they want to build, and then we're there through the duration of construction. It's unique in that we deal with the design team, which is composed of architects and engineers, and then we also deal with the subcontractors.
It's kind of an orchestra that we kind of try to conduct to make sure everybody's kind of on the same page.
The key responsibilities that we have as construction managers are making sure the project's delivered on time and on budget. In the company, we tend to differentiate into either project engineers or project superintendents. Project engineers basically work on the paperwork side of the business.
I'm tracking everything for the owner on paper. So if they didn't have me, then we wouldn't be able to track the proper materials or that the architect has specified are on site. Any of the questions that the contractors have, I make sure that the architect's answering them.
The superintendent side, they're the ones that are actually out in the field, coordinating with the field staff.
Contractors come out here and they're getting ready to put it in, and if they're confused, it's our job to make sure that any questions that they have are clarified.
The architect communicates to us what he wants, we communicate that to the subcontractor, and then any questions in between, we're solving those problems or going back to the design team saying, hey, that can't work.
Isn't that great?
Okay, so
the one thing I'm telling other managers right now.
I'm gonna stop that. Oops, sorry.
That's a great video put out by Turner Construction. Are you gonna share that? You're gonna share the link for that?
Yes. And are y'all still hearing the audio?
Nope.
Hearing you.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
I hear you, yes.
I need to get out of this. Sorry about that. Okay, there we go. Okay, all right. We just thought that that was a good way for us to, start a conversation about, that there are a variety of elements to a career in construction. That was specific to construction management, but we're talking about several different fields here today. So we want to talk about, first of all, if some of our panelists are going to answer this question, can you describe some common misconceptions that people have about the construction industry? And then what is the reality? Who wants to start? I know y'all have some different misconceptions.
I'll start with one of them. Okay, so one of
Thanks,
them.
AJ. You're good.
Okay, it was people say working construction means that you're uneducated, and it's one of those things that I've heard tossed around in conversations and when I'm talking to other people, and I'm like, in reality, it's one of those things that construction really does require a lot of knowledge and time to acquire the skill sets that you need to perform a certain job or a certain trade. And so I'm constantly talking with different trades, asking a lot of questions and learning how they do, a lot of the things. And sometimes I'm like, well, I never thought of that, or I would have never guessed, or, you know, I'm not very good with fractions, for instance, and I'm working with a carpenter and he's like saying all these numbers and stuff. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like you should have done something in math or something like that. And it's like, it just kind of brings you back to like, wow, like, you know, you really do need a lot of that knowledge. It's not just something where you just, you know, shoveling dirt, because even that you have to know how deep of a hole you need to put, what kind of dirt, you know, there's so much that goes into something very simple. So it's just one of those things that everybody, all the trades have their own set of skills, and it's just really great how it all ties together to complete a certain project. You know, you need all hands on deck when you're trying to complete a project, when you're working on a certain project. Just because, you know, I do paperwork or somebody does the shovel work, both of them play a huge part into getting that project done. So it does not mean you're uneducated. So you've got to be very knowledgeable.
Right. Definitely. Definitely. There's a lot of different elements to that, career. You have to know a lot of things. Wonderful. That was a great answer.
Thank you.
I think, excuse me, I think that is pretty universal, even going into HVAC, that a lot of people think that, you know, the guys are just mechanics and, you know, they're not very bright, but actually there's actually a lot of chemistry that goes into some of the formulas that they actually do, especially in the wintertime. They're actually, you know, when they're, you know, doing the calculations for the glycol that mixes with the refrigerant to put into the machines to keep the machines from freezing in the wintertime. There's actually a little bit of, you know, chemistry that goes into that, to the calculations, and, you know, weighing out the different, you know, there's a lot of math, there's a lot of skills, there's a lot of, you know, intelligence, there's a lot of, you know, electrical knowledge that goes into it. You know, those guys that are doing it, you know, it's thinking outside the box, and it's thinking of, you know, different, you know, applications, and thinking of, you know, different ways to try to get things to work, because it's not always you know, do X, do Y, do Z, and it's going to fix the problem. That's not always going to be what fixes things. And so, you know, the guys that, you know, that I work with and that I've worked with across, you know, in my, you know, experience in 25 years, you know, they're highly, highly intelligent guys. And I think that that's probably, you know, like AJ was saying, that's probably one of the biggest misconceptions, is that, you know, you do have to be able, you know, think outside the box, and you do have to think about, you know, not only, you know, what you're doing and what you're looking at, but you also have to think about what the person before you that was working on what you were doing, what they were doing before you came and started touching it. And you know, it's,
so you can't go into this thing absent-mindedly, because everything connects with one another. And
absolutely.
And you know, in all of these fields, there's safety involved as well. This is not something that can be done without thinking, because if things aren't put together correctly, it could cause danger for not only the workers, but people using those things in the future. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Cassie, did you have a misperception or misconception that you wanted to?
And I love the idea of thinking outside the box. That is definitely something you have to use in welding, and it's, you know, in fabrication, you kind of have to know a lot of things about math and everything just to get a project done and it done correctly. And that also goes into the safety as well. You know, our welds have to hold up a building or a bridge that are people that are using, and we have to be on our game at all times so that we know our little weld will hold up a building.
That's great. Dionne, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, one of the things that caught me by surprise was how we go about waste management, especially with all the green initiatives going on. You know, people can drive by a site and see a dumpster full of lumber or drywall, whatever, and think, you know, we're just making a small little cut in wood or whatever and just tossing it, when actually all of that material costs money. And so we're always telling our subcontractors, you know, if you cut a piece of lumber for a wall, and you know it's under 4 feet or whatever, try to use it for blocking, try to make door shims out of it, we're always trying to look for different ways to reuse material. So we're not just throwing it in the dumpster and literally throwing money away. And it goes the same for brick, for dirt, for concrete. We're always just trying to make sure we're actually producing the least amount of waste as possible.
Super. Very interesting. I know we talked a little bit about this before, that we have several ladies on our panel here. And, you know, typically people may think of construction as a men's field, but obviously there are quite a lot of opportunities for women as well. Any of you want to say anything about that?
I'll jump in there. HVAC is growing more and more. There's a lot of opportunities for women coming in. You know, like I said, I've been in this industry for 25 years, and I've seen it go from a completely male-dominated industry that, you know, women are coming more and more into this industry. More so women have kind of broken into the controls and automation. I'm seeing a lot more come into the mechanical side of it, but I love it. I love seeing, you know, women, you know, take on this challenge and take it up, because, you know, we see things that, you know, men don't always see. You know, we are a little bit more analytical at times, and, you know, we kind of, you know, everybody sees things different, and everybody brings something different to the table. And, you know, it's important that, you know, everybody has, you know, an equal opportunity to take on these challenges. And, you know, everybody has strengths that they bring to the table. And it's an exciting field. And, you know, I love seeing people excited about, you know, things that, you know, I've found so much enjoyment out of, and, you know, things that I'm so passionate about. And I love bringing more, you know, more women into our industry, because it's a lot of fun, and it's exciting, and it keeps me challenged every single day. So it's really great.
Would you say problem solving is one of those skills that you have to bring to this field?
Absolutely. Every day.
Sounds like Dionne was addressing that too, with the whole idea of the waste management and thinking about using things wisely. There's a lot of thought process that goes into it.
Yeah. And I mean, and that goes the same for us. You know, if we're going to, you know, I've got, you know, a situation like that right now, where I've got, you know, a part that's, you know, a starter that's bad on one machine that I'm going to be taking off, and I'm going to basically be Frankensteining that part onto another part that we're going to rebuild to try to save a customer money on, you know, onto another thing. So, I mean, it's, you know, using, you know, things like that where you can, you know, do things like that and try to save someone money, or, you know, try to, you know, reuse things, you know. And it's being able to, like, you know, we were saying earlier, think outside the box to try to reuse things, and, you know, try to recycle things and try to rebuild things to try to keep things new, and, you know, try to, you know, save on cost. So.
Super. Cassie or AJ, as other women in the field, do y'all have anything that you'd like to add about the thought about women having opportunities here?
I think it's one of those things that myself growing up, I was always under the impression of, you know, construction is not a woman's world, and any of the trades in that kind of way. I grew up with my parents being old school. My dad's been in construction his entire life. And so growing up, I was around it. So I was like, oh, I want to do that. You know, I want to do this. And then I was like, you know, I really want to be a diesel mechanic, or, you know, kind of things. And they were like, well, your hands will get dirty. Your hands, you know, this and that. And at the time, I'm like, I don't really care. But, you know, it just kind of got into my head. And so then I was doing the route of going into nursing. But then I quickly found that, you know, maybe that's just not, I love being around people and everything. I like to help, but it's like, there's gotta be something else. And so I did go to Collin, and I did my drafting degree there. And so it's like, wow, I really like that I can like design this. I can help people. I can actually build somebody's dreams, basically. And then from there, I was like, it kind of went over my head of like, well, screw whatever anybody has to say about, you know, women in construction. And I took it upon myself as a challenge. And I'm like, no, I can do just as much, if not better, you know? And so it's a mindset that I put myself, you know, even now where I work, I'm constantly, when they hear AJ, sometimes they're not sure if it's a guy or girl. And so they hear a woman's voice and they're like, oh, you're a woman, and I'm just kind of like, yeah, and I'm constantly told like, wow, this is really great. Like, that's awesome. You don't really see many builders out here. You don't see many girls out here. And it's like, well, slowly it's going to change, just because we do face some challenges of being a woman, because we get treated sometimes like, well, you don't know what you're talking about. And then I turn it right back around and I'm like, well, this is what I do know, and this is what's going on. And, and it's gaining that level of respect when, you are a woman, you just kind of prove them wrong. And it makes me feel better, I guess, whenever I'm doing it, because I'm like, yeah, I'm proving them wrong.
And I think Cassie came from a background too, where you have a family member in the same field, right?
Yes. My dad, he's a jack of all trades. He's been through, plumbing, electrician, welding. He's done it all. And I learned a lot from him. And he gave me the peace of mind of a woman in a work field, but he also supported me. And he's definitely proud to see me where I'm at and where the future holds for me. And he's shown me that love and support behind it all. And I definitely give thanks to him for letting me weld at home, and instead of just go back inside. You don't want to do this. And no, he let me know what it was about, and I learned a lot from him. And just the misconception of women in the work field it's a battle, and it definitely takes a strong woman to get through that emotionally and physically. And it just takes a strong person to get through the field as a woman.
Very good. Well, thank you for sharing that and your perspective. My next question for all of you is, what do you like best about your job, or what do you see as the best things about working in the field of construction? Dionne, are you ready to jump in on that?
Yeah. So I first off just like working with my fellow staff members on the project. Everyone at KWA is amazing, and so that aspect I love. But as far as construction, I just like that every day is so different. I did a job in insurance where I would, get there, do the same things every day, but there's always a different project or always something different to do in construction. And I love the fact that as the days, weeks, and months go on, you get to see the progress of the project like right in front of your eyes. You can see, everything and everyone's work coming together. And I think that is incredible.
Super. Anyone else, what your favorite things are about working in this field, or what you think are the best things about your job?
So, sorry, I'm just talking. So since I do home building, it's a little bit different from, a bigger commercial project or something. It's one of those weird, great feelings that I get. I'm constantly, every week we talk to our homeowners, and I'm like, hey, this is what's going on. We've got this going on. We got your plumbing, we got your flooring, or we got your brick put in, we got this. And every day, I'm sending them pictures, and I'm like, look at what's going on. Look at this progress. It's kind of like I'm showing them off, like, look what I did, look what we're doing, this and that. And then at the very end, I hand them over the keys, and they're just like so thankful. They're like crying some days, and I'm over there crying with them, because it's like it's just so amazing that I get to be a part of such a big step in their lives, because a lot of people are coming from always living in an apartment, or not, this is their first time buying a house. And it's just so great that I was able to be a part of it, be involved, and have them be involved as well with letting them know. And it's just kind of like we both work together, and so I get to experience that. And it's just such a wonderful feeling that I get anytime I come to close a house, because it's like, this is where they're going to build their future. And I was able to be a part of it. It's just a great feeling.
That's wonderful. That might not be something that some of our attendees today might not have thought about, that element of construction, that there's a personal element and a feeling of of reward that when you're able to turn over a project to someone finalized. That's
Yes.
cool.
So with HVAC, the thing that I love the most is that you don't really think about the other applications that, that go along with HVAC. So, when you think HVAC, you think heating and cooling, and most people think about your home. And so when you think about your home, most of the air conditioning systems that are in your home are between 3 and 4 tons. So I'm in commercial air conditioning. And so everything that we touch is between 25 and higher, 25 tons and higher. So we see things that are up to 3,000 tons, which, for, kind of a visualization, the condenser barrel on a 3,000 ton machine, if, I'm 5'9", if I'm standing beside the condenser barrel, I can stand beside it and put my hands up and touch the top of it. That's how tall it is. And so they're huge machines. And, the chillers and air conditioning, it's not just used to cool spaces. And that's the part that, when I got into this industry, that's the part that I never really made that connection on. And I think a lot of people don't make that connection on. They use those chillers not only to cool spaces, in movie theaters and office buildings and schools and things like that, and in the environment that you're experiencing, right now in your homes, but they also use it in, like when you go to the aquarium, in the water tanks where the animals are, to keep the water at a certain temperature. Those animals require a specific, water temperature. And so they use chillers to keep the water at that specific level in order to keep those animals alive. And then in manufacturing, and, like for example, a plastics company that they're doing, running those machines 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to recycle plastic to try to help our environment. They use chillers to keep the machines cool enough to be able to run them 24 hours a day to be able to help our environment. And then in hospitals, they use them to keep the rooms at a certain temperature in order to, prevent infection. They use it for air purification to try to prevent infection. They use them for, special, even now with all the, COVID things that are coming up, to try to purify the air, to try to keep people safe in the offices that they're, coming back to work in, and, different things like that. And so, the different applications, the food, food preparation and food processing, and food trucks for transportation, to our grocery stores, and then, even going into refrigeration for, food storage and things like that, the different applications that, are in the HVAC industry. And I think a lot of people don't make that connection. And so it's really fascinating. And then, even, further on, all the different sides of, the city that you actually get to see. So you kind of get, the behind the scenes of everything. So when you're, driving in Dallas, you see, this side of Dallas, but then, when you, are actually in the HVAC, you actually kind of get to see the behind the scenes. So you get to see like the skyline of Dallas. So you actually are on the rooftop getting to see it. So it's kind of, it's kind of exciting. You get to see, kind of everything, a little bit different than everybody else. And so, it's finding those little joys and finding those little differences that just kind of make it really interesting. And it's pretty cool what we do and how it affects everything, around us that we don't even think about.
Very nice. Thanks, Amy.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else want to jump in with their favorite part of your job or working in the construction field?
With the welding side, I definitely love the versatility of the materials that I get to use. Being around metal and everything, you get to use a lot of different types of metals: aluminum, stainless, carbon steel, and you get to learn like the metallurgic side of it, and knowing all the different types and how to weld them, and you learn a lot from it, and you always continuously learn in the field.
Very good.
Kristen, just for a second,
Yes.
I want to, because Cassie is such a humble student, I wanted to ask her to list some of the certifications she's recently acquired, not just through Collin College, but through her internship recently, if you don't mind, Cassie.
Yes. Yes,
Sure.
sir.
Why don't you tell us kind of the the trajectory. Like you went to school and got what you went through, and then they tell us about the internship that you're in, you're still in, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
yeah.
ma'am. So I started Collin College looking to just get an associate's degree and then continue on from whatever opportunity came from there. And so far, I've gotten my level 1 certificate and my level 2 certificate. And by May of 2022, I'll graduate with my associate's degree and my level 3 certificate. But recently, I have come across this amazing opportunity at Mercedes-Benz, their training academy. And I perform all of the tests on the welding that they do there. And they actually have a whole entire program of welders for collision technicians, any body shop men that need to weld on Mercedes-Benz. They have to go through this program and they have to show Mercedes-Benz USA that they can weld, and they can weld on their cars properly, so we don't have any other issues. And with that, I have been able to get my certifications of aluminum structural and thin panel welding, and it has been a great opportunity there. Everybody is so nice. I love that I get to meet people across the United States, even people from Canada, and it has definitely shown a different side of welding. It'd be the inspection side, and the CWI, which is a certified welding inspector. That's the person I'm studying under, and we get to test all of their welds, and that's a whole different side to welding that you can go into. And it's definitely the more scientific side of welding instead of the process and actually doing it, but getting to see what a person does and compared to another person to weld the same materials, but one could be doing good and one could be doing bad, and being able to tell them what needs to happen to change it so they can both come out on top and get those certifications.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Kristen,
Thank
I
you
got
for
to
sharing
jump in
that.
here. I got to jump in there real quick because Cassie's, it's like pulling teeth, but she's the youngest and the first woman to get those certifications with Mercedes-Benz.
Nice.
He didn't say that, but yeah, she's done really well there. She's a rock star over there.
That's fabulous.
The
So
youngest and the first woman to get those certifications through Mercedes-Benz.
wow. I'm sure those open up more opportunities too. As you get additional certifications, it shows that your training has been successful and that you're learning more skills and you're able to do additional. Yeah. Wonderful. We have one question in the chat that I'm going to go ahead and ask, and then we'll go back to some of the questions we had prepared. What qualifications are required to get started as a construction or project manager in the home construction business? And what's the first step toward developing those skill sets?
I guess that would be a little bit more on my side, because that's what I do. So really, it's going to sound kind of really up in the air, but with the program at Collin, it helped me a lot because we did learn a little bit of everything. So I know with the program, we were basically drinking out of a fire hose with so much information. We got so much that, where I'm at, I am thankful that we do have a training program, and we're constantly doing training because even though I have my degree and I went through the program and I already learned some things, when you do start going into the field, you really don't know anything because you don't know where you're going to end up. We were going over some and more of the commercial stuff and, a little bit less on the residential or vice versa. So when I got into residential, I was kind of like, oh my gosh, I remember we talked about this. And I'm like, oh crap, what was it? What did that teacher say? Kind of thing. So you really kind of learn everything on the job. It's really kind of where you end up and what you want to do and the skills that you have. And basically the skills are kind of, it just really depends on where you end up. With me, it's more of time management, communication, having flexibility, kind of skills or what comes into play, which is kind of what I was wanting later down talk about that. But really, it's just finding a home builder. I know a lot of them, sometimes they want you to have a bachelor's degrees, which I know we're going to be having that. Hopefully, right, Kate, at Collins. So once we do that, I'll be going back to getting my bachelor's for that. But for now, sometimes some of them, they want you to have experience or they want you to have a certain degree. I was thankful enough and blessed to be able to get the job that I have coming out of Collins. And so it's just really one of those things that you kind of learn on the job kind of skills. So it's not really, it's kind of hard to say.
And so as far as starting your job, though, having that certificate in, associates, right, in construction management is what you started with?
Yes.
Okay. And Dionne, you're in that same field, correct? What would you say are the qualifications required to get started?
Yeah, kind of going along with what AJ said, a lot of what you learn is going to be in the field. So my first tip, I guess, would be just get any kind of field experience that you can. And then obviously companies do like to see some sort of degree. And so Colin was perfect for me as well. And I was also fortunate to get a job pretty much as soon as I graduated. Just off that, because I didn't have a lot of experience prior to working for KWA. I just had a quick internship with McCarthy where I did learn a lot. And then I spent some time with Highland Homes. So that helped a little bit, but really just, try to get any experience you can. And if you can, get an associate's degree or bachelor's degree.
And Dionne, you have an associate's?
Yes, ma'am. And I also
in construction management.
Correct.
Okay, construction management. So both of our panelists that are in that got started with that associates in construction management. And I think they've talked a little bit about skills. Okay, so while we're talking about skills, would any of you like to describe some skills that maybe are less obvious that are required or useful in your role?
That are less required, is that what you said?
Less obvious. The kind of obvious things might be like using a hammer or, maybe measuring something would be, but what are some things that maybe people don't think about that are skills that you use?
So the two that I had down was that personality and your flexibility. So with the personality is that you're constantly working with different kinds of people, different temperaments. Some people respond more to an authority voice. Some people respond to, talk nicely to them, kind of thing. And so sometimes when you get frustrated or somebody's being, like, no, I'm not going to do it, you have to learn how to adapt and how to really connect with your trades or with the people you're working with, because, we're all in it together. We are trying to get this project done as best as we can. So you can't have the, like, oh, I'm just going to argue back with you because, you're just going to go in circles. So it's delegating, things like that. The other one with flexibility is that you never know what surprise is going to get thrown at you. One of the funny things that we just were dealing with is we were short, I guess they were back ordered on toilet seat covers. Toilet seat covers, yeah. And because I had called the plumbers, I'm like, hey, we got the toilets, but we didn't get the seat covers. And they're like, believe it or not, we don't have them for another 2 weeks. And I'm like, what? Like, we're behind, everybody sees, with brick or vinyl, with, decking, even mirrors, and shower doors. You have to learn how to, adapt and be flexible with everything around. So I feel like those two are one of those things that somebody really doesn't think about. But then they're the ones that really make it or break it on the field and in the jobs itself.
And I think you spoke to communication too, which I think Cassie kind of spoke to that earlier in terms of like if you're reviewing someone else's work or you're working together on a project.
That definitely comes into play.
sorry, go ahead, Cassie.
Oh, it's okay. Communication definitely comes into play a lot more than you think. You have to know what everybody else around you is doing, and so your safety is there. And communicating to on the teaching side, it's communicating to students and or the people that you're watching test and seeing if you can help them in some sort of way. And you just got to know how to talk to people and do it the right way so they understand what your tone is and what you're trying to get across.
Does anybody have any challenge or barriers that they've faced in getting into this field or in this field that they'd like to explain kind of what the barriers were and how they overcame them?
When I did the introduction, I said that I kind of had a bumpy road coming into this, and the reason for that is I was actually running a hair salon when I came into this industry. So I know that's kind of a big jump.
A little bit of a difference, yeah.
a little bit of a difference, but it is kind of funny, a lot of construction fields that there's a lot of, and Cassie is a perfect example of this, is that there's a lot of family ties in our industry, and that's kind of how I ended up over in this industry. And I took the long path. I kind of started at the bottom and kind of worked my way into the position that I'm in. I'm in a management position now, but the ideal way is to start at like a technical college, like Collin College, and get the training and do it that way, as opposed to the long route that I took, because it took me a lot longer to get to the position that I'm in. If I would have done a technical college experience or done a training like that, or even had done college a lot younger than because I did college way later in life after my daughter had when my daughter was in college, I did college. And so if I'd have done it a lot younger, things would have been I could have fast tracked my career a lot younger. And so I think that was my biggest challenge, is that I should have done the education portion of my life a lot younger. But life is what it is, and you face the challenges that you face life as you get it. And so I think that's the thing, is that when you're young and you've got the opportunity to go through it and to do it, do it, get through it, and just power through it, because the quicker you do it, the quicker you can get on with your career, and you don't have to wait so much later in life to be able to start your, to really start your career. You can start it much younger, and you can get a lot further with your career a lot younger than if you started, what I mean, than if you start it later in life. Sure. I think that would be my best advice to give.
Right. Thanks, Amy.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else a challenge?
If you don't mind, Kristen, I want to piggyback on that a little bit with Amy, because that's
sure.
It's so many times I look at websites and I see information, if you Google it, where it says trades or businesses you can get into without having a degree. And is that true? Sure it is. I mean, with the certificates that are provided in our degrees, we have stackable certificates. Mm-hmm. And just like Cassie was talking about, we have two or three in the welding side of the house. We have 2 or 3 on the HVAC side of the house, residential, commercial, entry level. But I think what people miss in the big picture is that in the here and now, do you need that degree? Well, maybe not so much, but as you get down the road, and Amy can speak to this probably more so than I can, or better than I can, there are many facets you can go into in a field. You don't have to be a technician all your life. But as you move up in the ranks, as you get an opportunity to be a supervisor or a manager or a district person, and that job description does say degree, you're ready for it.
Yep.
You already have it in place. You don't have to work on it. So having that early really takes a big stressor off. So now you can concentrate on being the best you can be in your field and get that experience. So actually doing it early, like Amy's saying, I think that's the ideal route. That and basically getting that experience through apprenticeship and things of that nature, it sets you up down the road for success. So I think that's smart. I like how Amy put that. So.
Well, not only
Exactly.
that, because you can knock it out while you're young, but you can also add to it. And
Yes.
so, like I waited so much later in life, but the things that I'm adding on to it now, I could have, you know what I mean? I would have been, it's an add-on. And so, yeah, absolutely. I agree 100% with what Sean's saying, that, get it knocked out early, because those little add-ons, believe me, you want to do those when you're younger, because if you're adding on to them later in life, it's a lot more difficult to advance your career later in life.
And a lot of students, we've talked about a lot of people get into these careers because of family connections. So they'll start working for their dad's, construction company, working as a carpenter, whatever. But if you go ahead and get the education, it's really going to accelerate your career. Yes. I mean, you can start working for dad, that's fine, but it's just going to take longer to get where you need to go. If you get the education, that really speeds up the learning process and allows you to get into more opportunities sooner.
Well, not only that, it'll also enhance what you're doing if you're continuing to work for your dad.
Absolutely.
It'll enhance that.
So we're about to talk about that. How do people explore these careers more and start training to get into them? But before we quite go there, I want to see if any of our panelists have something else that they want to say to kind of wrap up their the interest in their particular field, or what you love about your job. Why you would say to somebody, join us in this area.
Crickets.
Well, I think the key takeaway here is you can see from all the panelists that we're all pretty passionate about what we do. And I mean, you can see it when you're looking at Cassie, when she's talking, her eyes light up. AJ, the same way. Dionne, the same way. We're all very passionate about what we do. We're all, and that's something that we get from, from our education, from, everything that we've done. And, I think that that's the key, is that, when you find something that you're interested in, get your education, take that time and invest in yourself, invest in, in your education, invest in, your life and your career. And, as long as you're passionate about what you're doing, you're going to be successful. If you're happy about what you're doing every single day, you're going to be successful.
So adding on to like what Amy was saying also earlier about, and same thing with Sean, getting your degree, or not degree, getting education early on. When I first started, I was going down the path of nursing, and I'm like, this is what I want to do, kind of thing. And I wasn't really sure what I was wanting to do, and so not everybody is really sure, and so, but at the same time, whenever I was doing my drafting, same thing. And even then, afterwards, I saw construction management, and a little curiosity bird. I was like, why not? What do I have to lose? I was working, at a receptionist job before I went back to school, because I was like, I don't have kids. I don't, I'm a little bit older, but not too old, and I'm like, this is a perfect time because I don't have an excuse. I was working while I was doing my schooling, and I could have had the opportunity to just be full-time if I wanted to, a student, which I was challenging myself because I love challenges and continuing my work while I was continuing being a student. But I did have the luxury with that, before having kids, or, you never know what life's throwing at you. So I kind of sat down, I told myself, I'm like, I'm a little curious about this construction management. I'm like, why not? Let me take a semester, because what's the worst thing that happens? I like it. I don't like it. Maybe I do something else. Maybe I try something else. So my first semester in construction management, I was like, where has this been my entire life? I wish I would have known about this a lot earlier, kind of thing. And so, and if I wouldn't have liked it, I would have had the opportunity to find something else so that I can continue working, doing something that I am passionate about, which I am now, which I am so thankful that, my boss a long time ago was a little mean to me. And I'm like, you know what? I can do better. I'm going to go back to school. I'm, this and that. And I'm so thankful that it happened. You never know why things happen. And that is exactly what I needed, is that extra push, and tell myself, like, hey, there's no reason for you not to go to go back to school, to try something. And even now at Collin, I see, the welding programs, I see all these different things, and I'm constantly looking, and I'm like, maybe I might go back and do something else, because maybe I might like doing something else. I don't know that until I try it, so it's just being young and not knowing. It's great because you can try different classes, you can try different things, and then you can find your passion that way without, everybody says, oh, you need to go to school, you need to go to be a lawyer, you need to go be a doctor, you need to go be this. Yeah, maybe you can be that, but are you going to be passionate about it? Are you going to really enjoy it? Are you going to be happy? Is this what you want to do for the rest of your life? Right now, with my current position, I can see myself doing this for the rest of my life because I enjoy it. I love it. I love the aspects of it. I love everything that's involved with it. Some days, I go home and I'm like, man, why am I doing this? But then I go back the next day and I'm like, we're going to get this day. We're going to overcome today. Okay. So.
I think I'm really glad that you said that, AJ, because, I think that's part of why the library is doing the series of programs on exploring different careers, because how do you know what is even out there? How do you even think? And before we were actually live on this panel, our panelists were talking about the incredible diversity of types of jobs and roles within all of these fields. You don't have to be the electrician, but you can be the electrician. You don't have to be the plumber, but you can be the plumber. In fact, the average ages in some of these fields are going a bit old. And when people retire, there's going to be a real lack, which when there's a lack in a market, it means you're going to end up being paid more. So this is just the reality, is economics. So, these are important things for people to explore, to think about that. And we wanted to showcase that there are a variety of roles that you can get into in all of these areas. So we definitely have talked about a lot of that today, that there are a lot of different kinds of roles. Other people that want to give us their final kind of thought or direction, and then we're going to have Kate and Sean tell us how you can take your first steps in studying or trying out these fields. Dionne, Cassie, Amy I think Amy did say, Dionne or Cassie, have anything else you'd like to
at least
throw in there?
For the women in the work field, like once you feel underestimated, it puts you down a little bit, but definitely work through that and you'll get through it, and it'll be a lot better in the end once you show everybody what you're about and what you can do and what you're good at, and what you're talking about, and just the performance and the professionalism and everything you learn through these programs, that to show people that don't underestimate me. I'll get past you.
So you keep going. It's the tenacity.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. Determination and hard work will pay off in any of these careers and fields.
Good.
And
all right, Dionne, any closing? Yep.
Yeah, and one thing I'll say is if there's anyone out there like me who maybe doesn't have family or friend ties in construction but wants to get into it, even though they will look at your experience, one thing that you can always do without having construction experience is, being a go-getter, being self-driven and, being on time, the things that, you can't necessarily learn in the field or learn in school, email etiquette, those types of things actually did help me a lot in finding jobs and talking to people. And it kind of made up for my lack of experience in construction. So even if, you're just starting at Collin or some type of school, there's always smaller, unrelated construction things that will help you in general that you could always work on, and it will help you get a job in construction as well.
Yeah, Dionne's another humble person. When we had our first job fair, Dionne was reluctant to go because he didn't have any experience and he was reluctant to talk to employers. But we just encouraged him, just go out, express your willingness to learn, your willingness to work. and he went to the fair and he talked to all the employers, he networked with them. And then we always talk to the employers after, you know, what did you think of our students? And so many of them expressed that despite his inexperience, they all wanted to hire him because he did want to work and want to learn. And that's what they're really looking for in individuals. So he's one of my superstars.
So I have one last question from the attendees today, and then we want to give you a little bit of where you can go from here. Do any foreign languages or languages other than English play a role in your jobs? Is it recommended to study, in addition to the overall skills, something like that, a language?
Definitely I was going to say definitely on my side. I am lucky enough to be bilingual, so I do know Spanish off the top, but, you know, I would definitely, even myself, recommend, you know, to take that that's a Spanish course, you know, because in reality, a lot of the people that you will be talking with and dealing with, and it just makes communication, it goes back to that communication part, a lot better, because I've seen it firsthand from, you know, a different coworker who doesn't know any Spanish, and he's trying to talk to a trade, and then they finally call me in because I'm bilingual, so I get called in, and only to find out that they're both sitting on two different pages of what needs to happen. You know, one has a different interpretation of what he's trying to say. He has a different interpretation. They're both very frustrated and they don't know what needs to get done because they cannot, you know, understand each other. And so luckily I get to be involved and, you know, kind of delegate that and kind of make sure everybody's on the same page. With where I work, and it's kind of funny because they make fun of me. We have a construction Spanish little course or program that's offered for us that we can do. I decided to take it, even though, you know, I know Spanish, but they're like, AJ, why are you taking it? But because I want to strengthen my communication in my Spanish in construction. There's a lot of words that I don't know in Spanish in terms of like material, what things are called, what the proper term is. I even myself I use my Google Translate, you know, religiously, because before I'm going to go talk to a trade, I translate and I'm like, let me make sure I don't sound dumb, you know, because I'm like, I want to make sure I know what I'm talking about. But it's always one of those things. And, you know, I always tell everybody, don't be afraid to ask, you know, just like, hey, because even myself, I ask in Spanish, I'll grab like something and I'm like, hey, how do you say this? Or what is this called? Or, you know, something like that. That's another thing with in this field is never be afraid to ask questions. You know, always ask, even if you're shy or you're not sure. It's always better to ask. You know, there's, like everybody says, if you have a question, somebody else has that same question. So I like to be the person that I will always say, hey, I have a dumb question, but I'd rather ask it than do something that I don't know. So with construction itself, questions are key winner there. But yeah, it goes back.
Very good. Thank you. Does anybody else have a different answer about language?
I think any kind of education that you can get is great. I think that a lot of the applications that you can get on your phone are very helpful. We just had a guy that spent 8 weeks in Tokyo working on a project for one of our partners. So you know, having that application on his phone was very helpful. You know, I think, you know, any kind of education, something that you know that you can pick up, I think it's going to be helpful. But it's not, you know, with us and with my company, it's not a requirement, but it's always a plus to see on an application.
Very good. So let's look at what are the first steps that the next steps, the folks that are here today, if they would like to pursue any of these degrees, what is the next step for them? So Sean and Kate, this is kind of your.
Yeah. So of course, Sean and I are over at the new technical campus, which is located off of 121 between Alma and Exchange in Allen. And so we encourage you to come out and see the campus. That really is inspiring. You can see all the different options that are available in the different trades, and talk to our admissions and advising staff about getting started. Application to the college is free. It's relatively inexpensive. We have the lowest tuition in the state of Texas. So if you live in Collin County, it's about $57 a credit hour. What that means is you can get a 2-year degree, tuition, books, fees, everything for under about $6,500. So that's for the full 2 years. So that's less than a semester at many, many universities. So come out to the campus and visit with us. We'd love to show you around.
Did you have other slides that you had wanted to show, Kate?
No, that's okay.
Okay.
No.
Okay. All right. Then I'm going to give everyone the slide that shows our follow-up information. So if you have questions beyond this program today, if either you're watching live on YouTube or you watch the recording, you're welcome to reach out to us. My email address and Kate and Sean, who are at Collin College, their addresses are here. If you have questions for any of our panelists, we'll be happy to facilitate that those questions get to them and get answered for you. So we are so glad that you are with us today. I didn't see any other things in the chat. Are there other questions for our panelists before we sign off? I also put into the chat a link to our blog, Plano Library Learns. There is a large list of resources there for programs and things that you can do. We link you to Collin College as well. And there are a number of free resources through the library that you can check out if you just want to learn a little more to see if this is the direction you want to go. There's things related to plumbing, electrical, construction management. I'm assuming HVAC. I've not gotten a good look at the list. We have a very long list of a lot of things that you can review. So we encourage you to look at that list in the Plano Library Learns blog and try some things out. All right. Any other goodbyes from our panelists? We're so thankful. I want to just thank all of you for participating with us today.
You guys were awesome.
It takes a lot of
thank y'all.
It takes a lot of courage to get on camera and to talk about your field and what you've been doing. And I appreciate y'all all putting yourselves out there to talk about what your training has been and what you're enjoying about the job.
Super glad to be here.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Thank y'all for having us.
Absolutely. Sure. All right. I see there's something in the chat. Let me make sure if it's nothing else. Okay. Just a thank you. So, all right. We thank y'all for joining us. Keep learning, keep exploring, and hopefully we'll see some of y'all in a career in construction soon. Thanks so much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you all.
Thanks.